I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land that I stand on today, the Yagara, Turrbal, Yagarabal, Jagera and Yugambeh people, and pay my respects to the elders both past, present and future, for they hold the memories, traditions, culture and hopes of the Aboriginal people. I also acknowledge that we must always remember that under this concrete, asphalt and grass, this land was and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. As I explore my environment, I could be fooled to thinking that Indigenous Australians' culture and viewpoints are visible. I look around and I see a beautiful country with the images of native animals that roam these lands and native forests only a short walk from my door. But I am mistaken to think that there is any written or visible recognition of the Indigenous Australians that would have occupied these lands thousands and thousands of years before us. It is not hard to see why this would be the case considering the history Indigenous Australians have had to endure. This is a culture of people who were not classed as humans and were wrongfully dispossessed of their land, who were massacred in high numbers and massacres were discussed as justified killings. This is a culture of people that were taken from their families to conform to the white way of living, stripped of their own culture but still seen as not worthy. They were a culture of people that was believed to be a dying race. But although this was proved to be not true, statistics show that Indigenous Australians only make up about 2.3% of the Australian population. That's just under 600,000 people identifying in the 2011 census. Despite the evidence that supports a long history of the Indigenous Australians going back 45,000 years ago, I still couldn't help but notice that only minutes from my home, the only historical story I came across talked of a family of British settlers in the 1860s. John Pilger openly discusses the secret history of Australia, and I see that mirrored in my local neighbourhood as I walk around. What comes to mind is the statement, out of sight, out of mind, and it resonates so true to the environment I live in, where there is a clear absence of Indigenous people's culture and values. As a Kiwi moving to Australia 16 years ago, my knowledge of Indigenous Australians was limited, but that quickly changed as I studied and engaged with Indigenous Australians through friendships and work. Despite my contact, I have still felt anxiety and fear when working with Indigenous Australians, purely because I wasn't confident in myself about how I should be acting or behaving, and I realised that I did not have nearly enough knowledge regarding their history. The subject has tested my emotional capacity on so many levels as I have listened to the unspeakable truths about how Indigenous Australians were treated. What I must say gave me the most hope was learning of Indigenous Australians like Pemulwuy and Jandamara, who fought against the British and tried hard not to lose their land. It debunked my perception of Indigenous Australians, who I thought did nothing to fight back. Additionally, what I was learning slowly was more and more people are banding together to get social justice for Indigenous Australians. And although we have a long way to go, perhaps we can start to think like Anita Heiss and start to look at how we are the same and not different.